And it's not about tokenism. It's about having clear agenda. Go to Rwanda and you see the average age of people in positions of responsibility. They are being given responsibility, and they are older people who are watching them. And you can see, today I can go to Rwanda and get a company registered in 2 hours. Which means if I want to do business, I'll go there because of the turnover. When I want to move my money out of Rwanda, I can move it. And that is a political decision that has been made and is being implemented. You go to Angola, you want to move your money. It will take you 10 years, which means that something is not happening, just decision making and implementation. So I have such hope. As to whether I have faith is a different debate, but I have hope in the youth. By them following the right direction, they can make demands. The political class will have no choice but to listen and implement.
And then finally, 2 last questions based also on this one. Africa is the youngest continent in the world. How can you cash in on that demographic dividend?
You know, it can be a dividend or it can be a source of danger. Africa is the youngest. Uganda, I think, is the youngest.
Yeah,
now,
80%.
80% of the population. And if we don't take care of it, it can be a source of insecurity. But if you take care of it, it can be a source of great prosperity. And that is why one of the things that must be deliberately done at very early levels is to have policy clarity at the level of education. How are we dealing with these young men and women? What kind of education are we offering them? Are we giving them enough skills to be important to the market? Because many African countries are stuck in the kind of education that gives you a paper qualification and prepares you for employment. I don't think that is the future. The future is about innovation, and the beauty of Africa is that in almost every sector, there are opportunities. We are importing fish. We have a deficit of fish, and we are importing fish from China. Suppose you deploy your young people into aquaculture. Suppose you just go to Israel and got technology in dry land agriculture. We are importing Jewish paste from Israel to make juices in this country. We are importing almost 50, Nigeria is one of the leading champagne drinkers in the world, Nigerians. Yeah. Nigerians dress very well, but most of their clothes are being made in the Netherlands, in the German, in Belgium. Suppose we revived agriculture and textile technology.
And even in the supermarket, I see more Dutch Nescafe coffee than in Holland. I can buy Kenyan coffee much cheaper than here in Kenya.
Perhaps I also have it.
Yeah.
So that tells you that you can make use of the youth in that positive way. The head of the African Development Bank said, agriculture is what is going to liberate our young people and put them on the pedestal of economic activity. And when you do that, then they are dividend. But if you don't, then there are people who are operating in the continent of Africa who do not want Africa to be stable. The Democratic Republic of Congo has some of the highest number of flights getting out of it because there is no effective government in the east. They are taking rare earth, they are taking cobalt, they are taking gold, and that is why the Boko Harams, the Sahelian region, you now go to Sahel from Mauritania to Mali, to southern Cameroon, to Chad, to Central African Republic, to Darfur. You go down to Mozambique, you now have Al-Shabaab in Mozambique. Only yesterday in our own newspapers, you found people being recruited. Because if they don't have opportunities, then they are susceptible to being manipulated, and then they become the pirates, because that is now becomes a source of income. So, in short, sharp answer to your question, the young African population must be taken care of, which are going to inform the economies, because if we don't, what we think is a dividend can actually be a grave danger, and it is urgent business. If we don't do it now, we will have a problem.
Yeah. Do you think there are cultural barriers? Well, like in my country, the youth is used to talk, to also challenge their parents, and in African society, you have much more respect to elder people, I think, compared to Europe. Do you think that can be a barrier?
I think there is a sense in which what you are saying makes sense, because the relationship between young people and older people in quite a number of societies is that the young people are to be seen, not to be heard. And that, and you find a lot of that in Western Africa particularly, and in the old chiefdoms. It's not just youth, even women. Women have their limits. But I think that is changing. People are now beginning to realize that knowledge, particularly if it is deployed respectfully, can be respected. If you are a young person and you know how to conduct yourself, then people are beginning to change. So there are cultural barriers. It's not going to be easy to change, but I think that is beginning to change. And that change can also be brought about by the young people themselves. If they conduct themselves responsibly, then there is a sense in which they are going to have their pride of place and they are going to be listened to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. You say that Africa is it's a very attractive continent, and you say that look at it in terms of resources, and we've seen pacts being made by African countries and people from the West. But how can Africa leverage a position to actually benefit from the pacts that are actually made? And what can we learn or borrow from countries like China that have set root in most African states?
One, unity. If Africans continue to negotiate bilaterally, they are very weak. It's one of the things that the African Union did actually agree after the FCFTA, that all negotiations would be multilateral, no bilateral, even the East African Community. Then the Americans came here and persuaded the Americans to have this most favored nation status. Now we have broken that. And these bilaterals, in my view, there are areas where you can go bilateral. But if you look at Lesotho negotiating with the United States, it's a joke. It's a joke. I mean, the daily revenue of New York is more than the GDP of Lesotho, daily revenue. So my own view is that Africa must identify what she needs, and there is nothing wrong with African negotiating teams. You can do that in a basket of negotiation, because from that standpoint you are stronger. And I'll give you a good example: infrastructure. The Chinese are everywhere doing railways. Look at our railways, 3 times the cost of the railway being done. But if we negotiated as Africa and said, you have the technology in the railway sector, we are going to negotiate as Africa. We know that the pricing will not be the same because of terrain, because of cost of land, but you can control it within that sector. If it is gold, we say we know we want to do gold, but we want our gold to be traded locally, not in London. We create gold trade centers in Accra and Ghana. If it is cocoa and chocolate and these other things, we negotiate in that way. Initially, it will not be possible to negotiate as Africa, perhaps one may say, but it's possible to negotiate as East African Community. It is possible to negotiate as SADC. It is possible to negotiate as ECOWAS. And if we do that, then we are much stronger and we make greater sense. Why? Because East African Community has a population of anything approaching 300 million. That is a big market. If you are negotiating with it and you want to sell an item, you know that is a market. But if you are negotiating with Burundi with a population of 6 million, that is not a market. And you want to negotiate in a context so that if it is East Africa, the treaty allows goods to move within that. So my own view is identification of our priorities and working at it. That is China's greatest strength. There is a book written by a Chinese girl called Irene Sun Yen, and it's called The Next Factory of the World. She's saying Africa could be the next factory of the world. Could be. Because it can only be if certain things are done. Because labor is still cheap. Labor is becoming more and more expensive in China. So the next place to come is Africa. And when you have resources, take for example my mobile telephony. The essential ingredient in mobile telephony is found in abundance in Eastern Congo, rare earth. Why don't you do a factory there? So that you don't have to move the rare earth, you do it there. Within 15 years, the face of Congo will change. If you want to do anything relating to copper, located in the copper belt in Zambia, it will not change.
The art,
Yes.
it's really amazing.
Yes, in fact, we are now founding our own art which is called Niabuntu.
Yes, that's what I read in one of your.
You are going
your
to see us in
yeah.
the next 2 months. We have acquired our own uniform, black and red,
Yeah.
and we are going to have some of our first students.
It's actually sort of an African
It is-
variety of martial art.
Yes, we'll call it African,
Yeah.
but it will be a mix. You borrow from different traditions, and,
Mhm.
and the whole idea is not just the physical exercise, but the mental exercise, the ability to realize that body and mind must be wedded in order for you to achieve the discipline to make your body a weapon, not for fighting, but a weapon for achieving what you desire. And I think that we are going to be in a good space,
Oh,
telling young
yeah.
people what to do. You've seen every other group civilization has always adopted their own martial arts. The Israelis have their one they use in their discipline forces called Krav Maga,
Yeah.
which is meant for combat. The Brazilians have their own,
Yeah.
Americans. So
Yeah.
why shouldn't we have our
Yeah,
own?
we have in Holland we have our kickboxers,
Yes.
the champions. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you. Let
Professor.
me give you some items for our foundation.